Hello. Um, these past couple days have been kind of intense. As I'm just rethinking my experiences in Busan, specifically with the elder man who, you know, I engaged with sexually. Um, yeah, I'm really doing this for myself at this point. Oh, my batteries are low. I'm really doing this for myself at this point because I think it's an important conversation, one that I want to have with more people, one that I do have with the people that I am close to, including my therapist, which I was thankful to process some of the events that took place. And she's heard about just similar experiences where I've engaged with people sexually from the street all the time, every time these men initiate contact, initiate sexual conversation, and initiate sex. And around telling her these experiences, one specifically we got around the question of no, what, are there consequences of no? Why don't you say no? And I think a lot about value in that conversation, and how, because it's something that has taken place since I was quite young, and when I was, 16 specifically, my self-esteem was pretty fucked. And the interactions that I would have with strangers, both online but also in real life, I projected value onto, receiving that attention rather than the devaluing some of the only attention that I get, even to this day. There are people that, say I'm beautiful, or, comment on my looks and stuff, but not many people tell me how attracted they are to me. I've only dated two people, and then more recently, when I was traveling in Brazil, two more people were very open about expressing their attraction. Usually it's me that puts very thoughtful words together in the form of a letter, or telling somebody to their face. And a majority of these experiences have resulted in just the person saying that they're not attracted to me in that way, sexually, romantically, in that way. So I have attached, and do feel like I'm still detaching value from being interacted in this way. And I definitely feel that, because a majority of the street harassment that I get, or initiations by men, I haven't been interested in. There have been 3 people within the past year that I can say, like, I interacted sexually with them off of, like, the street. 2 of those experiences were, like, quite unpleasant. And I am processing this one. I am processing it. And even, like, as I laugh, it just, like, triggers something in me that I just, like... So I'll follow the thread of, like, my brain thoughts. Specifically towards the end of my conversation with my therapist, I was talking about how it was, like, a pleasant experience, how I did feel, like, very non-threatened by this, like, old man in his 80s, like, come and touch me, how it did feel very, like, consensual because I did, like, non-verbally understand what he wanted from me and non-verbally, like, yeah, but, like, positioned my body for him to touch me. And she was like, I'm glad it was, like, a positive experience for you. And then, like, the last thing that I talked about was, like, that I'm still processing, like, the negative aspects of all of those experiences is processing the entitlement of men. How every single experience that I've had on the street, whether I was horny, whether I wanted to be touched, whether I felt sexy, whether I wanted validation or attention, all of that, I never initiated sexual contact with these men. It was always, like, a man that felt very comfortable approaching me, whether it be in daylight, at night, alone, in front of his friends. And that still pisses me off, even as I process, like, a very mixed bag of emotions around this, like, latest interaction. I am extremely angered by how entitled men feel towards me to initiate, like, a very explicit sexual conversation or action. And then I went down this rabbit hole last night. And I don't know how I got there. I think the algorithm on TikTok, like, arrived me to, yes, spiraling around, like, stalkers and Japan, which is the next location I'm going to. I'm going to Osaka, and specifically it was, like, stalkers in Osaka, and I was just spiraling, seeing all of these videos of these women and, like, 2 men being stalked while live streaming. And one, like, in particular, like, really got me, because I don't know if you've seen the I'm Jasmine streamer. It was her 1-year anniversary from streaming on TikTok. She had received a lot of, like, followers, a lot of support. She was able to travel and chose Japan, chose Osaka, landed there, and while she was on this, like, what was supposed to be a 24-hour live stream, like, was assaulted and stalked. and harassed on the street by this man. And as it was happening and unfolding, like, I was so angry. And it pissed me off, like, how annoyed I was at her for constantly, like, laughing and smiling and entertaining these men. And then I was just like, oh, that's very familiar. And I was annoyed at her because I was annoyed at myself. For entertaining men in a lot of situations. I've gotten a lot better at saying no, at disengaging. With this past experience, I just, like, if you would have told me, like, this old man coming over to sit with me after I had just prayed, meditated, played my bowl, and this old man came and sat down and was, like, interacting with me. I was shocked that he, like, sat down, even though, like, I don't speak that much Hangul, and then we were kind of communicating very minimally. But if you would have told me that it would have resulted in him being extremely, sexually curious to the point where he ended up, like, touching me, I would not have guessed it. So in a lot of ways, it did throw me off. And, you know, there have been many moments in my life in which, like, I literally am faced with a decision where I'm like, okay, like, do I just disengage to the point of, like, walking, turning my back to this person, or being aggressive verbally, like saying no, like making my words sharp so that I can push them away, interacting physically with this person to, like, get them away from my body, or just all of these options kind of play in my head. And it annoyed me that I saw myself in the option of, like, entertaining men out of fear, out of discomfort, out of shock. The shock of, like, is this happening? And, like, kind of laughing in the disbelief, or, like, trying to make light of certain themes, certain experiences that come up, is something that, like, in like, seeing her and seeing it all unfold, of, like, her literally being assaulted, like, live on camera and being followed, like, it was just, I was so disheartened for the world and for her having experienced that. And there have been multiple, like, assaults of hers that were captured on camera. And she was just talking about her experience, and I just, like, I really saw myself in her. And I've only been able to talk to, like, a few people very candidly about about street harassment and street assault, and actually find similarities, even though I know it happens to millions of people. I feel like, A, people do not talk about it, and B, yeah, I don't know what the B is. But I went down this rabbit hole. And it really like scared me into action, specifically around like really guarding myself and being more aware and like not seeing people coming up to me as like a point of curiosity. Like, I'm traveling alone. I don't want to meet anybody off of the street. I'm thankful the people that I've been able to meet on the street here, in Seoul specifically, have been like old women, which has been lovely. And on Jeju Island, like, I wasn't really running into that many people. Everything was so spread apart, and I was on the very south, like this very southern tip of the island, and not where all like the tourist people were, not close to the airport. And then here, yeah. So I'm just thinking about stalkers. I'm thinking about the entitlement of men and how deeply woven that is globally, just globally. But specifically, thinking about these examples of harassment that I've seen from the city I'm about to fly to, that I didn't look up. Like, I wasn't like, oh, let me look up street harassment in Osaka. Like, it literally just came to me, and I was like just processing that during this time. So yeah, I'm just documenting this for myself, really. I don't even know if I'm gonna share these after I recorded them, and just have been thinking about it a lot, of like guilt and shame has come up around like, yeah, just sexual liberation, sexual healing sexual patterns, trauma, abuse, and also just like, yeah, wanting better for myself, wanting just like powerful sexual experiences, and consistently naming that like sex with strangers or anonymous sex or fleeting sex is not something I'm interested in. Which is hard because I haven't stayed in one place for longer than a month for this past year and a half, while also just like having sexual desires, having romantic desires. And wanting to settle down, and knowing that in that settling down, like, I do see a more reclusive life of me staying on the land and building and being in a house. And I do think like, well, then how am I gonna manifest partnership and relationship if I'm not out? Anywho, I'm going to... Oh. This was double what I usually want it to be, but that's fine. I'm gonna go and get some instant rice, make a little seaweed stir fry, get a soft-boiled egg, and eat, watch some. But yeah, I'll keep you posted. Oh, there's mold damage in the room that I'm in, or like, yeah, mildew from, I think, a leaking, something's leaking. Well, yeah, the air conditioner's leaking, but I guess nobody said anything or saw it, except for me. So I told the person, they came by to look at it now, and she said that I can move to another room on Monday. So it's Saturday now. I have one more day, so I'm just gonna spend the day inside today and then spend the whole day out tomorrow. I hope to go to the ocean. I think that requires me to maybe take a bus, which I'm not really looking forward to. I'd rather take the subway, the train. Either way, yeah. Thanks for listening.